Greetings and salutations to the executive production team. Your team's job is to pull everything all together. Your team will actually have an extra 30 minutes because you have to wait for the other teams to complete their task for you to do what you need to do. What you won't be doing is sit around and waiting for 40 minutes. Instead, you will first take a listen to the sound bite for your podcast, and then you will have 3 of your team members rotating around amongst the different teams to observe what they're working on, find out what decisions they're making, what type of content they're producing, and so on. You will rotate every 10 minutes. And one of your team members will function as the lead editing engineer. So while 3 of you are initially out on rotations visiting the other teams, the lead engineer will start getting the session together. Your session will have about 5 or 6 tracks. 1 track for the host, who will provide an outro and intro. 2 tracks for the 2 guests, who will give commentary about the soundbite. 1 track for the podcast theme music. 1 track for the soundbite that I'll provide. And 1 track for the sound effects to go with the soundbite. Now, keep in mind, the sound effects team will give you 2 tracks. 1 with the soundbite and the sound effects all combined in 1 track, and 1 track with the soundbite muted with just the sound effects in their appropriate positions within the track. This way, it can help save time in your team's editing process. Or if for any reason you decide you want to edit the sound effects track any further, you're able to do so. Once you're done editing, the podcast would go in this order: intro, soundbite, guest commentary, and then outro, with the podcast theme music playing during the intro and the outro. Now, if you decide you want to change up how you order the segments, be my guest. As the executive production team, you have the authority to make that call. Again, just be mindful of the time you have to finish and also the time parameters that the episode has to be. Now, since I just mentioned that, your team is responsible for editing the podcast with a specific episode time frame. I could say your episode needs to be 13 minutes and 14 seconds. Your job is to edit in a way to adhere to this time parameter. So say, for instance, after you've edited, you realize the podcast is only 11 minutes and 53 seconds. You'll need to figure out how to create 1 minute and 21 seconds more to the podcast. And maybe that means you add some extra time for the intro and outro music to play, or maybe you have a slight pause between the 2 guest commentaries and you fill the pause in with a sound effect. Or maybe you need to ask the host team to have a 3rd person to be a guest for the podcast and record their part quick, fast, and in a hurry. There's many different ways to solve this potential problem. A few suggestions for the executive production team: it's your responsibility to pull everything together. So be mindful of the effort all the other teams invested. I wouldn't wait for all the tracks to get to you in the order they need to be. As soon as a team gives you their tracks, start importing into your session and just adjust accordingly as more tracks start to come in.